Hey guys, it's Will. Quick Blu-ray pickup video. So I'm going to tell you a story really quickly. If you're on YouTube, actually, if you feel like subscribing, yay, thank you. That'd be awesome. Thank you very much. So as you can see, I'm in a sling here, and I can show you my gnarled. It's actually kind of hard to take this out. Ta-da! So about a month ago, I destroyed this wrist, and I also broke my knee. And I broke my wrist in 3 places. I broke the pinky where it meets the palm, so it was like broken off from my hand. And the bones were sitting on my nerves, so I also have like nerve issues now with tingling in my fingers. Point being, I had to have surgery. I'm out of work for like 5 weeks, I think, and I was just sitting around watching movies and posting on Instagram about what I'm watching. So I thought, fuck it, I've had a really shitty month. I'm gonna buy myself some Blu-rays. Treat yourself. So I'm just gonna show off what I got here. We have Final Justice, fuck yeah. So this is actually a Hong Kong Blu-ray. I bought this off of eBay, and it came from Hong Kong. So if you don't know, the US and Hong Kong are the same region code for Blu-rays. This is not the case with DVDs, but US and Hong Kong are both region A. So if you have a US Blu-ray player, you can buy like standard commercial release Blu-rays from Hong Kong, and a lot of people on eBay sell these for not that much money. So I got this for less than $15. I think it was $14, and then it's like $5 shipping. So this is a heroic bloodshed movie. I think it came out in 1988, 87, 88. It stars Danny Lee, who, if you've seen like some of the bigger films from that era, and that's kind of like the John Woo era, like mid to late 80s, he's the cop in The Killer who is chasing Chow Yun-fat. I think he actually plays that same role in Tragic Hero and Rich and Famous, the cop who's after Chow Yun-fat. He's in a movie called Law with Two Phases, and so he's in a bunch of those movies, but he's not always the lead character. In this, he is the lead. Stephen Chow is in this movie, and he's really young, like Shaolin Soccer Stephen Chow. He's like super young in this movie, and he's really, really good, actually, in a dramatic role. And it's just kind of like a really good example of those heroic bloodshed action cops and criminals thrillers that were coming out of Hong Kong in the mid to late 80s. So I rewatched this today, actually, and we're going to be doing an episode of our show for Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society that's called Why I Like This Movie on this one, so you can look out for that. Next up, Born to Fight. This is the Dragon Dynasty release of this. So this is a Thai film that comes from the same like stunt team and martial artists who were involved in Ong Bak and The Protector, but it's not like the main people. So like Tony Jaa isn't in this, but it's the same kind of like stunt team / fighters. And this movie has some of the most absolutely fucking bananas action shit you will ever see in your life. Like there's a scene where these 2 semis, I think this is actually on the cover, are like racing down the road side by side, and there are people like fighting on the semis and jumping back and forth across the semis. And one of the big selling points they have for this movie is there's no CGI, there's no wire work, and it's not, oh, we're going to drive the trucks at 5 miles an hour and then speed up the film. So like they're actually driving down the road at like a regular speed in these trucks while these guys are leaping back and forth across them. There's one scene where a motorcycle drives into a parked pickup truck at like a fairly decent speed, and the pickup truck might even be on fire, and the guy just goes, like, it's just bananas. It's like they're like, you know what, let's just make the most gonzo stunt fight movie ever. But rather than it being like kind of like the Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Yoon Biao, like balletic style, it's just like really hard-hitting, badass, like Tony Jaa, The Protector style. So that's a great movie, and it's relatively short. I think it's like 90 minutes. So fans of martial arts cinema, fans of like badass stunt work action, check that out. Changing pace completely. Hey, look, it's Tarkovsky. So I watched Stalker and Andrei Rublev recently, and I'd never seen either of those movies. And Tarkovsky is a filmmaker I've been meaning to get to for like years and years and years of my life. I have a good friend, his name is John. Hi, John. Who I've known for like 18 years maybe at this point. Yeah, like maybe 17 years. And Tarkovsky is like probably his favorite filmmaker, and Stalker is like one of his favorite movies ever, and he's been trying to get me to watch Tarkovsky for years. And I broke my arm, and I'm like, you know what? I have time to sit around and watch 3-hour movies. I'm going to dive into Tarkovsky. So I watched Stalker, like I said, and Andrei Rublev, and I was just blown away by both of those movies. He's such a phenomenal filmmaker. You don't need me to tell you this because you already know this if you know anything about film. So this is his last film. This was shot in Sweden after he left the Soviet Union. And it has this very famous scene at the end where there's like a burning house, and there's like a really long shot of the house burning and the family kind of like running out of the house watching it burn, which is on the cover here. And I found this. So this is a Kino release. So if you know Kino, they do really great Blu-ray and DVD releases. And I think this is a 4K remaster, and it has really amazing special features. So there's audio commentary from Tarkovsky's translator from the set of this film, so somebody who obviously has inside knowledge of the film. There's an interview with the film's co-editor, and then there's an hour-long documentary, 102 minutes, so an hour and 40-minute long documentary about the making of this, made by the editor of the film. So that I really like bonus features that are less leaning towards film scholars and more leaning towards people who are actually involved in the film, because I think you can learn a lot more from them. And so this is a blind buy, but because it has those amazing special features, because it's a Kino release 4K remaster, and because I found this for like $18, I was like, I can't say no to that. So that's Tarkovsky, that's The Sacrifice. What do we have next? Climax. So if you watch our YouTube channel, or if you kind of look at our videos scattered around Instagram, you'll know that I loved this movie when I saw it. This was actually I think this is the only new release film I've seen in theaters in like almost 2 years, because I have a kid who's 2 years old, and that makes it really hard to get to the movie theater. But I really love the last two Gaspar Noé films that were released before this came out, which are Into the Void and Love. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to go see Climax in theaters. And it's just such a great... if you've seen this movie, you'll know it's a very loud movie with a very like pulsating, pounding, intense soundtrack. It's a very visceral movie. It's very emotionally intense and harrowing, and it's a really immersive like sensory experience. And I really love that like pure cinema kind of concept. And so I just really love the experience of seeing this film. After I saw it, I got the soundtrack and I listened to it like over and over again at work. And so A24 put this out recently on Blu-ray, and so I picked this up. I'm really excited to watch this again. I did a review, like I said, on this movie. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'll link to that review. And then if you're on Instagram, if you go through our IGTV videos, you should be able to find it. You can see my full thoughts on that film. But I'm a big fan of Gaspar Noé, like I said, a big fan of Climax. And one more blind buy. Finally, what do we have here? The Yellow Sea. So this is a South Korean film. And if you're unfamiliar, it's by the director of The Wailing. So The Wailing was my favorite movie of, I think that came out in 2016. It's interesting, for me, like far and away, the two best movies of that year were both South Korean. One was The Handmaiden and one was The Wailing. It may have been 2017, but I think those came out in 2016. It was one of those 2 years. And The Wailing is just this really intense, dark, slow burn thriller. That kind of has this premise of, is there supernatural stuff going on or is there not? And it's about this kind of bumbling cop in a small town who gets in way over his head in this really brutal case. So after I saw The Wailing, I was like, that movie was absolutely phenomenal. I got to see more stuff by this filmmaker. And so I read about this movie, which is also a thriller, and it's pretty long. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and apparently I've read that it's also like a very slow burn, like really intense movie, which I'm really excited about. And so I've been trying to find it like on streaming platforms and stuff like that, and I've just been like mostly unsuccessful. So I found this for $7, and I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna pick up the Blu-ray and check it out. So like I said, it's called The Yellow Sea. It's a thriller about, I think the story is there's like a cab driver who, I think he lives in China, but he lives like on the border with Korea, and he's like really poor. And he has gambling problems, and his family gets into trouble, and the mob comes to him and is like, if you go and kill this person for us, we'll help you deal with your gambling debts, blah, 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 blah. They maybe kind of threaten his family too. And then because he's not a professional killer, everything goes south, and the thriller unfolds from there. So there you go. Those are my recent DVD and Blu-ray pickups to help me deal with sitting on the couch all day recovering from surgery. Thank you for watching. My name is Will, and this has been a Terrible Infant production. We'll see you next time.